Question 1. To address the challenge of handling terrorism and active shooter incidents, what is the most critical initial communication priority for a certified public safety communicator, CPSC, when receiving the first reports of such an event? Option A. Immediately disseminate clear, actionable safety instructions to the public in the affected area and relay verified incident details to responding agencies. Option B. Focus on gathering detailed information about the perpetrator's background and motives to inform the public and responding agencies. Option C. Attempt to establish direct communication with the active shooter to de-escalate the situation and gather intelligence. Option D. Broadcast graphic details of the unfolding incident to the wider community to raise awareness and encourage vigilance. The correct answer is A. Immediately disseminate clear, actionable safety instructions to the public in the affected area and relay verified incident details to responding agencies. Explanation. Scenario analysis. Handling terrorism and active shooter incidents presents a significant professional challenge for public safety communicators due to the extreme urgency, potential for mass casualties, and the need for rapid, accurate information dissemination under immense stress. The communicator acts as a critical link between the public, first responders, and command structures, requiring a delicate balance of providing life-saving instructions while gathering intelligence and maintaining operational awareness. Misinformation, delayed communication, or improper protocol adherence can have catastrophic consequences. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach prioritizes immediate, clear, and actionable instructions to the public while simultaneously relaying critical, verified information to responding agencies. This aligns with CPSC best practices and regulatory frameworks that emphasize the communicator's role in public safety and emergency response coordination. Specifically, it reflects the National Incident Management System, NIMS, principles of interoperability and standardized communication, ensuring that all responding entities receive consistent and timely information. Ethical considerations also dictate a duty to protect life and provide accurate guidance during such crises. Incorrect approaches analysis. An approach that focuses solely on gathering extensive details about the perpetrator's motives before relaying any information to the public or responders fails to meet the immediate life-saving imperative. This is a regulatory and ethical failure because it delays critical public safety announcements and responder deployment, potentially leading to increased harm. It violates the principle of prioritizing life safety above all else. An approach that prioritizes broadcasting graphic details of the incident to the wider public without first issuing safety instructions or coordinating with law enforcement is also a significant failure. This can lead to panic, hinder evacuation efforts, and compromise the tactical operations of first responders. Ethically, it demonstrates a lack of discretion and respect for victims and their families, and regulatorily, it can be seen as a breach of responsible information management during a crisis. An approach that involves communicating directly with the active shooter to de-escalate the situation without established protocols or specialized training is highly dangerous and outside the scope of a public safety communicator's role. This bypasses established law enforcement negotiation procedures and puts the communicator at extreme risk, potentially jeopardizing the entire incident response. It is a clear violation of operational boundaries and safety protocols. Professional reasoning. In situations involving terrorism and active shooter incidents, public safety communicators must employ a decision-making process that begins with immediate threat assessment and prioritization of life safety. This involves activating pre-established protocols for such events, which typically include 1. Issuing immediate shelter-in-place or run, hide, fight directives to the affected population. 2. Simultaneously relaying verified incident details, location, nature of threat, number of potential victims, to responding law enforcement and emergency medical services. 3. Maintaining a continuous information flow between command, field units, and the public as the situation evolves, always verifying information before dissemination. This structured approach ensures that critical actions are taken swiftly and efficiently, minimizing harm and maximizing the effectiveness of the emergency response. Question 2. Compliance review shows a public safety dispatcher received a 911 call via Telecommunications Relay Service, TRS, from an individual reporting a medical emergency. The dispatcher, perceiving a slight delay in the relay operator's transmission, ask the caller to repeat several key details directly, bypassing the relay operator for those specific pieces of information. What is the most appropriate action for the dispatcher to take in this situation, according to CPSC guidelines and relevant federal regulations? Option A. Politely inform the relay operator of the perceived delay and request they ensure clear and timely transmission of all information, continuing to use the relay service for all communication. Option B. Continue to communicate directly with the caller for any information that seems delayed or unclear, ensuring the fastest possible information exchange. Option C. Ask the caller to hang up and redial using a standard voice call if they are able, to expedite the process. Option D. Immediately dispatch emergency services based on the initial information received, and then attempt to clarify details with the caller via TRS once units are en route. The correct answer is B. Continue to communicate directly with the caller for any information that seems delayed or unclear, ensuring the fastest possible information exchange. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires the public safety communicator to balance the immediate need for information with the legal and ethical obligations to provide equitable access to telecommunications relay services, TRS, for individuals with disabilities. The core of the challenge lies in understanding and applying the specific regulations governing TRS, ensuring that the communication process is not hindered by assumptions or biases. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it directly adheres to the Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA, and Federal Communications Commission, FCC regulations, which mandate that TRS be provided in a manner that is functionally equivalent to standard telephone service. This means the communicator must facilitate the relay of information without undue delay, alteration, or interruption, and without disclosing the content of any relayed conversation. The focus is on enabling effective communication, respecting the privacy of the caller, and upholding the principle of equal access. An incorrect approach that involves asking the caller to repeat information unnecessarily or attempting to bypass the relay service directly violates FCC rules. These actions create undue delay and alter the communication process, failing to provide functionally equivalent service. Ethically, it demonstrates a lack of understanding and respect for the communication needs of individuals with hearing or speech disabilities, potentially leading to frustration and a breakdown in communication. Another incorrect approach, such as making assumptions about the caller's needs or the urgency of the situation based on their use of TRS, is also professionally unacceptable. This can lead to misinterpretations and delays in dispatching appropriate resources. It violates the principle of providing service without discrimination and can have serious consequences in a public safety context. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a thorough understanding of TRS protocols and relevant regulations. When a call is received via TRS, the communicator must recognize it as a standard call requiring assistance, albeit through a specialized service. The priority is to gather the necessary information efficiently and accurately, treating the relay operator as an extension of the caller's communication ability. If any aspect of the communication seems unclear or delayed, the communicator should politely and professionally engage with the relay operator to clarify, rather than making assumptions or attempting to circumvent the established process. This ensures that all callers, regardless of their communication method, receive prompt and effective public safety services. Question 3. Strategic planning requires public safety communicators to effectively manage incoming emergency calls. You receive a call from an individual who is audibly distressed, speaking rapidly, and expressing significant fear. They are struggling to provide a clear location or describe the nature of the emergency. What is the most appropriate initial approach to ensure both the caller's immediate needs are addressed and the necessary information for dispatch is gathered according to standardized protocols? Option A. Politely inform the caller that you cannot proceed until they can provide clear and concise information, and if they cannot, terminate the call. Option B. Empathetically acknowledge the caller's distress while systematically guiding them through the standardized questions to obtain critical information such as location, nature of the emergency, and caller details. Option C. Make an educated guess about the nature of the emergency based on the caller's tone and any fragmented words, and initiate dispatch based on that assumption. Option D. Immediately attempt to calm the caller by offering reassurance and asking open-ended questions about their feelings before proceeding to gather specific emergency details. The correct answer is B. Empathetically acknowledge the caller's distress while systematically guiding them through the standardized questions to obtain critical information such as location, nature of the emergency, and caller details. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between immediate emotional distress and the critical need for accurate, standardized information gathering in emergency call intake. Public safety communicator must navigate the caller's heightened emotional state while adhering to protocols designed to ensure all essential details are captured efficiently and accurately for effective dispatch. This requires a delicate balance of empathy and procedural adherence. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes the systematic collection of critical information as mandated by standardized call intake protocols, which are foundational to public safety operations. By employing active listening and empathetic, yet directive questioning, the communicator can de-escalate the caller's distress while simultaneously obtaining the necessary data points, location, nature of emergency, caller's information, etc. required for appropriate resource allocation. This aligns with the CPSC emphasis on efficient and effective communication to ensure public safety. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on the caller's emotional state without attempting to gather essential information fails to meet the core responsibility of the public safety communicator. This constitutes a regulatory failure by neglecting the standardized protocols for information gathering, which are designed to ensure timely and accurate dispatch. Ethically, it is a failure to provide the necessary service due to incomplete information, potentially delaying critical assistance. Another incorrect approach that involves making assumptions about the nature of the emergency based on limited information is also a significant regulatory and ethical failure. Standardized protocols exist to prevent such assumptions, which can lead to misclassification of calls, dispatch of incorrect resources, or delayed response to the actual emergency. This directly contravenes the CPSC mandate for objective and thorough information collection. A third incorrect approach that involves prematurely terminating the call due to perceived lack of cooperation, without exhausting all avenues for information gathering and de-escalation, is a failure to uphold professional duty. This can be a regulatory failure if it bypasses established procedures for handling difficult callers or situations, and an ethical failure as it abandons a caller in potential distress and need of assistance. Professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured approach. First, acknowledge and validate the caller's distress empathetically. Second, gently but firmly guide the conversation back to the required information gathering steps as per protocol. Third, utilize active listening and clear, concise questions. Fourth, if the caller remains highly agitated, employ de-escalation techniques while continuing to extract critical data. And fifth, only consider alternative actions, like involving a supervisor or law enforcement for the caller's safety, after all standard protocol steps have been attempted and documented. Question 4. Quality control measures reveal a gap in understanding regarding the foundational principles and subsequent advancements of the 911 system among newly certified public safety communicators. Which of the following best describes the critical evolutionary stages and their impact on current 911 operations? Option A. The 911 system's history is characterized by a static technological framework, with current operations primarily relying on the original voice call infrastructure. Option B. The 911 system evolved from a basic voice-only service to an integrated platform supporting multimedia, advanced location data, and interoperability, driven by technological innovation and regulatory mandates aimed at improving emergency response times and accuracy. Option C. The 911 system's primary evolution has been the standardization of emergency dispatch protocols across different agencies, with minimal impact from technological changes. Option D. The 911 system's development has been largely driven by private sector innovation, without significant governmental oversight or regulatory influence. The correct answer is B. The 911 system evolved from a basic voice-only service to an integrated platform supporting multimedia, advanced location data, and interoperability, driven by technological innovation and regulatory mandates aimed at improving emergency response times and accuracy. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a challenge in understanding the historical context and evolutionary trajectory of the 911 system, specifically its transition from basic voice calls to integrated data and location services. Public safety communicators must grasp this evolution to effectively utilize current technologies and anticipate future advancements, ensuring efficient and accurate emergency response. Misunderstanding this history can lead to misapplication of protocols and a failure to leverage the full capabilities of the modern 911 infrastructure. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach recognizes that the evolution of the 911 system has been driven by technological advancements and a growing understanding of the need for more precise location information and richer data beyond voice. This includes the integration of enhanced 911 E911 features, such as automatic number identification (ANI) and automatic location identification (OLI), and the subsequent development of next-generation 911 NG911, which supports multimedia communication and more sophisticated location data. Adhering to this understanding ensures that public safety communicators are aligned with the system's intended capabilities and regulatory frameworks governing its operation and development, such as those overseen by the National 911 Program Office and relevant FCC mandates. Incorrect approaches analysis. An approach that focuses solely on the initial implementation of 911 as a voice-only service fails to acknowledge the significant technological and regulatory advancements that have transformed it into a sophisticated emergency communications platform. This oversight would lead to an incomplete understanding of current capabilities and limitations, potentially hindering effective response. Another incorrect approach might overemphasize the technical intricacies of specific hardware without considering the overarching historical and functional evolution of the system, leading to a narrow and potentially outdated perspective. Finally, an approach that neglects the role of regulatory bodies and standards in shaping the 911 system's development would be flawed, as these entities are crucial in ensuring interoperability, reliability, and the responsible implementation of new technologies. Professional reasoning. Public safety communicators should approach the 911 system overview by understanding its historical progression from a simple emergency number to a complex, integrated system. This involves recognizing key milestones like the introduction of E911 and the ongoing transition to NG911. Professionals should continuously seek training and information regarding the current capabilities and future direction of the 911 system, as mandated by training requirements and best practices promoted by organizations like NENA, National Emergency Number Association, and the National 911 Program Office. This proactive learning ensures they can effectively utilize all available tools and information to provide the best possible service to the public. Question 5. Consider a scenario where a 911 call is received reporting a loud noise and shouting coming from a residential address. The caller sounds agitated but does not explicitly state a crime is in progress or that anyone is in immediate danger. Available resources include a single patrol unit in the immediate vicinity, a supervisor's vehicle, and a detective unit en route to a different part of the city. What is the most appropriate initial response for the public safety communicator? Option A. Attempt to gather more specific details about the nature of the shouting and the potential for violence before dispatching any units. Option B. Advise the caller that no units are available for a noise complaint and suggest they call back if the situation escalates. Option C. Dispatch the supervisor's vehicle to the scene as it is the closest available supervisory presence. Option D. Dispatch the available patrol unit to investigate the reported disturbance, advising them of the caller's agitation and the nature of the report. Correct answer is D. Dispatch the available patrol unit to investigate the reported disturbance, advising them of the caller's agitation and the nature of the report. Explanation. This scenario presents a common challenge in public safety communications, balancing the immediate need for response with the finite availability of resources. The professional difficulty lies in accurately assessing the severity of a situation based on limited, often rapidly evolving, information, and then making a critical decision about resource deployment that could impact public safety and the efficiency of emergency services. This requires a deep understanding of established protocols, the capabilities of available units, and the potential consequences of both over- and under-resourcing. The correct approach prioritizes a systematic evaluation of the call information against established dispatch protocols and resource availability. This aligns with the core principles of public safety communication, which mandate efficient and effective resource allocation to ensure the most appropriate response for the reported incident. By considering the nature of the incident, its potential severity, and the specific skills and equipment of available units, the communicator ensures that the response is tailored to the need, maximizing the chances of a positive outcome while minimizing unnecessary strain on resources. This adheres to the implicit regulatory requirement for prudent stewardship of public safety assets and the ethical obligation to provide timely and effective assistance. An incorrect approach that immediately dispatches the highest level response without a thorough assessment fails to adhere to resource management principles. This can lead to the unnecessary diversion of critical resources from potentially more urgent incidents elsewhere, violating the principle of efficient resource utilization. Ethically, it represents a failure to exercise professional judgment and could be seen as a waste of taxpayer-funded resources. Another incorrect approach that delays dispatch or attempts to gather excessive information when immediate action is warranted ignores the urgency inherent in many public safety calls. This delay can have severe consequences for the individuals involved and the community, potentially violating the duty to act promptly when a threat to life or property is indicated. It demonstrates a lack of situational awareness and an inability to prioritize actions under pressure. A further incorrect approach that dispatches a response based solely on the caller's perceived emotional state, rather than the objective information provided about the incident, is also professionally unacceptable. While empathy is important, dispatch decisions must be grounded in the facts of the situation and established protocols, not subjective interpretations of a caller's demeanor. This can lead to misallocation of resources and a failure to address the actual emergency. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with active listening and information gathering, followed by a rapid assessment of the incident's nature and potential severity. This assessment should then be cross-referenced with established dispatch guidelines and the real-time availability and capabilities of emergency units. The goal is to achieve the most appropriate and efficient response, prioritizing life safety and property preservation. Question 6. The investigation demonstrates that a caller, experiencing significant panic and distress, is struggling to articulate the nature of an emergency. The public safety communicator must effectively gather vital information while also managing the caller's emotional state, which active listening technique is most critical in this initial phase to build rapport and facilitate clearer communication. Option A. Employing empathetic statements and paraphrasing to acknowledge and validate the caller's feelings and confirm understanding. Option B. Immediately asking a series of rapid, direct questions to ascertain the precise nature of the incident. Option C. Providing immediate, definitive reassurances that help is on the way without further inquiry. Option D. Focusing exclusively on identifying the caller's exact location before any other information is exchanged. The correct answer is A. Employing empathetic statements and paraphrasing to acknowledge and validate the caller's feelings and confirm understanding. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge for public safety communicators. A caller experiencing extreme emotional distress who is struggling to articulate their needs clearly. The communicator must balance the urgency of the situation with the need to gather critical information, while also providing immediate emotional support. Failure to do so can exacerbate the caller's distress, delay essential response, and potentially lead to negative outcomes. The professional challenge lies in maintaining composure, demonstrating empathy, and employing active listening techniques under pressure. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach prioritizes establishing rapport and understanding the caller's emotional state before attempting to extract detailed information. This involves using empathetic statements, paraphrasing to confirm understanding, and asking open-ended questions that encourage the caller to speak. This aligns with CPSC guidelines emphasizing the importance of de-escalation and building trust. By validating the caller's feelings and demonstrating genuine concern, the communicator creates a safer environment for information exchange, which is crucial for effective dispatch and incident management. This approach directly supports the CPSC mandate to provide effective and compassionate communication during emergencies. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach involves immediately demanding specific details without acknowledging the caller's distress. This can alienate the caller, increase their anxiety, and make them less likely to cooperate, potentially violating CPSC ethical guidelines regarding caller welfare and effective communication. Another incorrect approach is to focus solely on gathering factual information while ignoring the emotional cues. This demonstrates a lack of empathy and can be perceived as uncaring, hindering the establishment of a helpful rapport and potentially leading to miscommunication or incomplete information, which is contrary to the principles of comprehensive public safety communication. A third incorrect approach is to offer premature solutions or reassurances without fully understanding the situation. This can be dismissive of the caller's immediate concerns and may lead to a false sense of security or a misunderstanding of the actual problem, failing to meet the caller's immediate need for understanding and support as outlined in CPSC best practices. Professional reasoning. Professionals should employ a structured yet flexible approach. First, acknowledge and validate the caller's emotional state. Second, use active listening techniques such as paraphrasing and clarifying questions to ensure accurate understanding. Third, gently guide the conversation towards gathering necessary information, always maintaining an empathetic tone. Finally, confirm that the caller feels heard and understood before proceeding with dispatch or further actions. This systematic process ensures both the caller's immediate emotional needs and the operational requirements of public safety are met. Question 7. Upon reviewing the initial dispatch information for a reported disturbance, the Public Safety Communicator, PSC, receives a call from an individual who sounds agitated and is speaking rapidly. The PSC needs to quickly ascertain the nature of the disturbance, the location, and any immediate threats to safety. Which questioning technique would best facilitate the gathering of accurate and actionable information in this high-stress situation, while adhering to CPSC guidelines? Option A. Primarily use closed-ended questions to quickly confirm specific facts such as, is there a weapon involved? And are you at address? Option B. Rely solely on open-ended questions to encourage the caller to elaborate on every aspect of the disturbance, regardless of the time it takes. Option C. Ask leading questions to guide the caller towards providing the information the PSC believes is most important, such as, you heard shouting, didn't you? Option D. Begin with open-ended questions to allow the caller to describe the situation in their own words. Then use targeted closed-ended questions to confirm critical details like location and immediate dangers. The correct answer is D. Begin with open-ended questions to allow the caller to describe the situation in their own words, then use targeted closed-ended questions to confirm critical details like location and immediate dangers. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario is professionally challenging because the Public Safety Communicator, PSC, must quickly and accurately gather critical information from a distressed caller. The caller's emotional state can impede their ability to provide clear details, making the PSC's questioning technique paramount to ensuring a timely and appropriate response. The PSC must balance the need for specific details with the caller's potential distress, adhering to established protocols for information gathering. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a strategic blend of open-ended and closed-ended questions. Open-ended questions, such as, can you tell me what's happening? Allow the caller to provide information in their own words, which can reveal details the PSC might not have thought to ask about and can help build rapport. Closed-ended questions, such as, is anyone injured? Are crucial for quickly confirming specific, vital pieces of information that are essential for dispatching the correct resources and ensuring responder safety. This balanced approach, guided by CPSC best practices and protocols, ensures comprehensive information gathering without overwhelming the caller. Incorrect approach is analysis. An approach that relies solely on open-ended questions would be professionally unacceptable because it could lead to lengthy, unfocused conversations, delaying the dispatch of critical resources. This failure to efficiently gather essential information could violate CPSC protocols for information prioritization and potentially impact public safety by delaying response times. An approach that uses only closed-ended questions would be professionally unacceptable, as it might fail to elicit crucial contextual information that the caller volunteers. This could lead to an incomplete understanding of the situation, potentially resulting in misallocation of resources or overlooking critical safety concerns for the caller or responders. It also risks alienating a distressed caller by not allowing them to express their concerns fully. An approach that asks leading questions, such as, "You said there was a loud bang, right?" would be professionally unacceptable. Leading questions can inadvertently influence the caller's responses, leading to inaccurate information. This directly contradicts the CPSC ethical obligation to gather objective and factual data, potentially compromising the integrity of the incident report and the effectiveness of the emergency response. Professional reasoning. Public safety communicators must employ a dynamic questioning strategy. They should begin with open-ended questions to establish the nature of the incident and allow the caller to provide context. As the conversation progresses, they should transition to targeted closed-ended questions to confirm critical details like location, number of individuals involved, and immediate threats. This iterative process, informed by CPSC training and established protocols, ensures that all necessary information is gathered efficiently and accurately, prioritizing caller safety and effective resource deployment. Question 8. The audit findings indicate a recurring issue with public safety calls being dropped during interagency transfers, leading to delays in dispatch. When a call is dropped during a transfer to a specialized unit, what is the most appropriate protocol to ensure efficient call routing and minimize the risk of lost information? Option A. Log the dropped call and proceed to the next incoming call, assuming the caller will redial if the situation is urgent. Option B. Transfer the call to a general dispatch queue and instruct the next available dispatcher to attempt to locate the specialized unit. Option C. Immediately attempt to re-establish contact with the caller and complete the transfer to the specialized unit. If re-establishment is not possible, log the dropped call and initiate a callback attempt to the caller's last known number. Option D. Terminate the transfer process and wait for the caller to reinitiate contact with the dispatch center. The correct answer is C. Immediately attempt to re-establish contact with the caller and complete the transfer to the specialized unit. If re-establishment is not possible, log the dropped call and initiate a callback attempt to the caller's last known number. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires immediate, accurate decision-making under pressure, directly impacting public safety and the efficient allocation of emergency resources. The core of the challenge lies in balancing speed with adherence to established protocols for call routing and transfer, especially when dealing with potential call drops, which can lead to critical information loss or delayed response. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes maintaining communication and ensuring the call reaches the appropriate responder without unnecessary delay or loss of vital information. This aligns with the fundamental principles of public safety communication, emphasizing continuity of service and accurate dispatch. Adhering to established protocols for handling dropped calls, such as immediate callback attempts and logging the incident, is crucial for accountability and service improvement, directly supporting the regulatory framework's emphasis on reliable communication channels. An incorrect approach that involves simply ending the transfer process and waiting for the caller to reinitiate contact fails to acknowledge the urgency of public safety calls and the potential for the caller to be in distress or unable to redial. This disregards the ethical obligation to provide continuous assistance and can lead to significant delays in emergency response, potentially violating regulatory requirements for prompt and effective communication. Another incorrect approach, such as transferring the call to a general queue without attempting to re-establish contact or log the drop transfer, demonstrates a lack of diligence and can result in lost critical information. This bypasses established protocols for handling communication failures and can lead to a breakdown in the chain of information, which is a direct contravention of best practices and regulatory expectations for maintaining accurate records and ensuring all calls are addressed. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with recognizing the critical nature of the call and the immediate need for resolution. This involves a rapid assessment of the situation, followed by a systematic application of established protocols for call routing and transfer. When a dropped call occurs during a transfer, the immediate priority is to re-establish contact and complete the transfer if possible. If re-establishment is not immediately feasible, the protocol for logging the dropped call and initiating a callback attempt should be followed without deviation. This structured approach ensures that all necessary steps are taken to provide uninterrupted service and maintain accurate records, thereby upholding both regulatory compliance and ethical responsibilities. Question 9. Examination of the data shows that during high-volume emergency call periods, a common challenge for certified public safety communicators, CPSC, is maintaining optimal information gathering efficiency without compromising the quality of critical details or overwhelming distressed callers. Considering the CPSC syllabus on process optimization, which of the following strategies best addresses this challenge? Option A. Allowing the caller to provide information freely without interruption, even if it leads to lengthy tangents, to ensure they feel heard. Option B. Immediately asking a rapid series of detailed questions to gather all possible information as quickly as possible, regardless of the caller's emotional state. Option C. Focusing primarily on confirming the caller's identity and location before proceeding to any other details of the emergency. Option D. Implementing a tiered questioning system that prioritizes the most critical information first, followed by secondary details, while employing empathetic listening techniques to manage caller stress. The correct answer is D. Implementing a tiered questioning system that prioritizes the most critical information first, followed by secondary details, while employing empathetic listening techniques to manage caller stress. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires a certified public safety communicator, CPSC, to balance the immediate need for information with the potential for overwhelming the caller and compromising the quality of critical data. The CPSC must employ a systematic and optimized approach to information gathering to ensure efficient and effective dispatch, adhering to established protocols and regulatory guidelines for public safety communications. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a structured, protocol-driven method for information acquisition. This aligns with the CPSC responsibility to gather essential details accurately and efficiently, minimizing caller distress, and ensuring that all necessary information for appropriate resource allocation is obtained. This structured approach is fundamental to maintaining operational integrity and compliance with CPSC standards, which emphasize clear, concise, and complete communication under pressure. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on rapid information extraction without regard for caller state or protocol can lead to incomplete or inaccurate data, potentially delaying critical response or dispatching the wrong resources. This failure to follow established protocols and best practices for caller management and information gathering constitutes a regulatory and ethical failure, as it compromises the primary duty of ensuring public safety. Another incorrect approach that involves excessive questioning or deviating from standard protocols can overwhelm the caller, leading to a breakdown in communication and the loss of vital information. This demonstrates a lack of adherence to the systematic process optimization required for effective emergency dispatch and a failure to manage the caller's emotional state appropriately, which is a core ethical responsibility for a CPSC. Professionals should use a decision-making framework that begins with acknowledging the caller's situation and then systematically applies established protocols for information gathering. This involves active listening, clear and concise questioning, and prioritizing information based on established emergency dispatch guidelines. The framework should also include strategies for managing caller stress and ensuring that the communication remains focused and productive, ultimately leading to the optimal outcome for the emergency situation. Question 10. Performance analysis shows that during a high-volume incident, a public safety communicator receives a call reporting a medical emergency at a location described by the caller as near the old oak tree on Elm Street. The communicator has access to an integrated GIS mapping system with real-time traffic data and routing capabilities. Which of the following actions best ensures accurate location identification and efficient dispatch of emergency resources? Option A. Instruct the caller to open their mapping application and provide the GPS coordinates directly to the communicator. Option B. Rely solely on the caller's description of near the old oak tree on Elm Street and dispatch units to that general area, assuming they can find the exact spot upon arrival. Option C. Ask the caller to describe the nearest cross streets and then provide general directions based on their response, without consulting the GIS system for precise routing. Option D. Utilize the GIS system to pinpoint the most probable location based on the caller's description, and then generate precise, turn-by-turn directions for responding units. The correct answer is D. Utilize the GIS system to pinpoint the most probable location based on the caller's description, and then generate precise, turn-by-turn directions for responding units. Explanation: scenario analysis. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires a public safety communicator to rapidly and accurately interpret geographic data under high-stress conditions. The primary challenge lies in ensuring the correct location is identified, and precise directions are relayed to responding units, directly impacting response times and the safety of both the public and the responders. Misinterpretation of mapping data or providing ambiguous directions can lead to critical delays or responders being sent to the wrong location, with potentially life-threatening consequences. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves utilizing the integrated GIS mapping system to pinpoint the reported incident location, and then leveraging the system's directional tools to generate clear, concise, and turn-by-turn directions. This method is best professional practice because it directly aligns with the core competencies expected of a certified public safety communicator, CPSC, as outlined in relevant operational guidelines and training standards. These standards emphasize the critical role of accurate location identification and efficient dispatching. By using the GIS system's built-in functionalities, the communicator minimizes the risk of human error in interpreting spatial data and ensures that the directions provided are based on the most up-to-date and accurate road network information available, thereby optimizing response efficiency and safety. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach involves relying solely on the caller's verbal description of the location without cross-referencing it with the GIS system. This is a regulatory and ethical failure because it bypasses a primary tool designed for accuracy and efficiency, increasing the risk of misidentification and delayed response. It demonstrates a lack of adherence to established protocols for location verification. Another incorrect approach is to provide general directions based on common knowledge of the area rather than using the specific routing capabilities of the GIS. This is a failure because it assumes familiarity with the caller's perspective and may not account for current road conditions, closures, or the most efficient route for emergency vehicles. It deviates from best practices that mandate the use of precise, system-generated directions to ensure optimal response. A third incorrect approach is to ask the caller to navigate the GIS system themselves to provide coordinates. This is a significant failure, as it shifts the responsibility of accurate location identification away from the trained communicator and places an undue burden on a potentially distressed caller. It is a dereliction of duty and a violation of the communicator's role in facilitating emergency response. Professional reasoning. Professionals should approach this situation by prioritizing the use of their primary dispatch and mapping tools. The decision-making process involves 1. Actively listening to the caller to gather initial location information. 2. Immediately inputting or verifying this information within the GIS system to obtain a precise location. 3. Utilizing the GIS system's routing features to generate clear step-by-step directions. 4. Confirming the dispatched location and route with responding units. This systematic approach ensures accuracy, efficiency, and adherence to professional standards designed to protect public safety. Question 11. The performance metrics show a slight increase in the average call handling time for incidents involving callers exhibiting high levels of emotional distress. A review of recent interactions suggests that some communicators are struggling to balance de-escalation techniques with the efficient collection of critical incident details. Which of the following strategies best addresses this challenge while adhering to professional standards for public safety communication? Option A. Offer assurances to the caller that their situation will be resolved quickly and effectively by emergency services to alleviate their anxiety. Option B. Adopt a tone that mirrors the caller's agitation to demonstrate understanding and encourage them to express their feelings more openly. Option C. Immediately request all necessary incident details in a firm and direct manner to ensure the fastest possible dispatch of resources, regardless of the caller's emotional state. Option D. Prioritize establishing a calm and empathetic connection with the caller by acknowledging their distress and using active listening before attempting to gather specific incident information. Correct answer is D. Prioritize establishing a calm and empathetic connection with the caller by acknowledging their distress and using active listening before attempting to gather specific incident information. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires the public safety communicator to manage a caller experiencing extreme emotional distress while simultaneously gathering critical information for an emergency response. The communicator must balance empathy and de-escalation with the urgent need for actionable data, all within the constraints of established protocols and legal obligations. The pressure to obtain information quickly can conflict with the need to calm the caller, making effective communication a delicate act. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes de-escalation and building rapport before attempting to extract detailed information. This aligns with the ethical imperative to provide compassionate care to individuals in crisis, as often emphasized in public safety communication training and guidelines. By first acknowledging the caller's distress and creating a sense of safety, the communicator increases the likelihood of receiving accurate and complete information. This method is supported by best practices in crisis intervention, which suggests that emotional validation is a prerequisite for effective problem solving. Furthermore, maintaining a calm and controlled demeanor, even when faced with agitated or distraught callers, is a core competency expected of certified public safety communicators, reflecting a commitment to professional conduct and service delivery. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on rapid information gathering, without addressing the caller's emotional state, fails to meet the ethical standard of care. This can lead to miscommunication, incomplete information, and potentially exacerbate the caller's distress, which could have negative consequences for the emergency response. Such an approach might also violate guidelines that mandate empathy and a patient-centered approach in emergency communications. Another incorrect approach that involves mirroring the caller's agitated tone or becoming defensive is professionally unacceptable. This escalates the situation, erodes trust, and hinders the ability to gather necessary information. It demonstrates a lack of control and professionalism, which is contrary to the core principles of public safety communication and could lead to disciplinary action or complaints. A third incorrect approach that involves making promises or guarantees about the outcome of the emergency response is also ethically problematic. Public safety communicators are not authorized to make such assurances, as the response is dependent on many factors beyond their control. This can create unrealistic expectations and lead to dissatisfaction or legal issues if those promises cannot be met. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a systematic approach. First, assess the caller's emotional state and the immediate safety concerns. Second, employ de-escalation techniques such as active listening, empathy, and reassurance. Third, once a degree of calm is established, begin to gather essential information in a clear and concise manner, prioritizing critical details for the responding units. And finally, maintain a professional and controlled demeanor throughout the interaction, adhering strictly to established protocols and ethical guidelines. Question 12. Analysis of a critical incident where a dispatcher needs to relay a suspect's vehicle description to responding units. The dispatcher, under significant stress, uses a phonetic alphabet that includes some non-standard substitutions and a 10 code that is not universally recognized within the local interagency communication plan. What is the most appropriate course of action for the dispatcher to ensure clear and effective communication? Option A. Briefly explain the non-standard 10 code and phonetic substitutions to responding units to clarify the message. Option B. Prioritize speed by relaying the information as quickly as possible, even with the non-standard elements, to ensure units are dispatched promptly. Option C. Continue relaying the information using the established 10 code and phonetic alphabet, assuming responding units will understand based on context. Option D. Immediately retransmit the vehicle description using the officially adopted phonetic alphabet and the standard 10 code for the jurisdiction, confirming receipt and understanding from responding units. Correct answer is D. Immediately retransmit the vehicle description using the officially adopted phonetic alphabet and the standard 10 code for the jurisdiction, confirming receipt and understanding from responding units. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the critical need for unambiguous communication in a high-stress public safety environment. Misinterpretation of phonetic alphabet or 10 code usage can lead to delayed responses, incorrect resource allocation, or even endangerment of responders and the public. The challenge lies in maintaining accuracy and clarity while operating under pressure, and potentially with varying levels of experience among communicators. The correct approach, utilizing the standard, officially adopted phonetic alphabet and Teng code system for the relevant jurisdiction, represents best professional practice because it ensures universal understanding among all public safety agencies and personnel operating within that jurisdiction. Adherence to these established standards is often mandated by departmental policy, and by extension, by the regulatory framework governing public safety communications, which prioritizes interoperability and clarity. This consistency minimizes the risk of confusion and promotes efficient, effective incident management. An incorrect approach that deviates from the standard phonetic alphabet, such as substituting letters with similar sounding words E, G, B as boy instead of bravo, introduces ambiguity. This violates the fundamental principle of clear communication and can lead to misidentification of critical information, potentially causing significant operational errors. Ethically, it demonstrates a lack of professionalism and disregard for established protocols designed to ensure safety. Another incorrect approach, using unofficial or localized Teng codes, creates a significant interoperability barrier. If different agencies within the same jurisdiction or responding to a mutual aid incident use different code systems, vital information can be lost or misinterpreted. This failure to adhere to standardized communication protocols is a direct contravention of best practices and often departmental regulations, which mandate the use of approved codes for seamless interagency coordination. It represents a failure in professional responsibility to maintain effective communication channels. A third incorrect approach, relying solely on spoken words without confirming understanding, especially for critical information like addresses or suspect descriptions, is also professionally unacceptable. While not a direct violation of a specific phonetic alphabet or Teng code rule, it bypasses the very purpose of these systems, which is to reduce errors in transmission and reception. This can lead to critical information being misunderstood, directly impacting response effectiveness and safety. It reflects poor communication discipline and a failure to employ all available tools for clarity. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a commitment to continuous training and adherence to established communication protocols. When in doubt about a code or phonetic spelling, communicators should always seek clarification or use the full word if ambiguity is a risk. Prioritizing accuracy and clarity over speed, while still maintaining efficiency, is paramount. Understanding the regulatory framework and departmental policies regarding communication standards is essential for all public safety communicators. Question 13. The evaluation methodology shows that during a multi-vehicle accident with reported injuries and potential for hazardous materials, a dispatcher receives a call from a witness describing smoke emanating from one of the vehicles. The dispatcher must decide how to relay this information to responding units. Which of the following actions best adheres to CPSC radio dispatch procedures for providing updates and coordinating responses? Option A. Dispatch units with a detailed narrative of the witness's entire statement, including their personal observations about the smoke's color and density, before providing other incident details. Option B. Immediately dispatch units with the initial incident details, and then transmit the witness report about smoke as a separate, subsequent transmission once units are en route. Option C. Dispatch units with the initial incident details, including the witness report of smoke, and then confirm receipt of this critical update from all responding units. Option D. Dispatch units with only the initial incident details and wait for the first arriving unit to confirm the presence of smoke before relaying it. The correct answer is B. Immediately dispatch units with the initial incident details and then transmit the witness report about smoke as a separate, subsequent transmission once units are en route. Explanation. The evaluation methodology shows that effective radio dispatch procedures are paramount for public safety. This scenario presents a professionally challenging situation because the dispatcher must balance the immediate need for unit deployment with the critical requirement for accurate and comprehensive information dissemination. The challenge lies in prioritizing information, ensuring clarity under pressure, and maintaining situational awareness for all responding units. Careful judgment is required to avoid information overload or critical omissions that could jeopardize responder safety or the effectiveness of the response. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes the immediate safety of the public and responding personnel by relaying the most critical information first, followed by necessary updates. This aligns with established CPSC guidelines that emphasize clear, concise, and timely communication. By confirming receipt of information and providing ongoing updates, the dispatcher ensures all units are operating with the most current intelligence, facilitating coordinated efforts and appropriate resource allocation. This proactive communication strategy minimizes confusion and enhances the overall efficiency and safety of the incident response. An incorrect approach that involves withholding critical details about the nature of the incident until units are en route demonstrates a failure to adhere to CPSC guidelines regarding the provision of essential information for responder safety. This could lead to units arriving unprepared for the specific hazards present, violating the ethical obligation to protect responders. Another incorrect approach, which is to provide a lengthy, unorganized stream of information without prioritization, risks overwhelming dispatchers and responders, leading to missed critical details and potential confusion. This deviates from the CPSC standard for clear and concise communication. Finally, an approach that fails to solicit confirmation of information receipt from units creates a significant risk of miscommunication, as the dispatcher cannot be certain that vital instructions or updates have been understood, a direct contravention of best practices for ensuring accountability and situational awareness. Professionals should use a decision-making framework that begins with identifying the most critical elements of the incident that directly impact responder safety and the immediate course of action. This involves a rapid assessment of the situation based on incoming information. Next, the dispatcher should prioritize the transmission of this critical information in a clear and concise manner, using standardized terminology. Following the initial dispatch, the framework dictates a continuous process of information gathering, verification, and dissemination of updates as they become available. This includes actively seeking confirmation of understanding from responding units and maintaining a log of all communications. This structured approach ensures that all necessary information is conveyed effectively and efficiently, promoting a coordinated and safe response. Question 14. Cost-benefit analysis shows that upgrading to a next-generation computer-aided dispatch (CAD) system could significantly improve location accuracy and reduce call handling times, but also involves substantial upfront investment and extensive staff retraining. As a SAP supervisor, which approach best aligns with CPSC guidelines for operational efficiency and risk management? Option A. Proceed with the upgrade immediately, focusing solely on the potential speed improvements and assuming that training challenges will resolve themselves over time. Option B. Defer the upgrade, citing the high initial cost and the perceived complexity of retraining staff, opting to continue with the current system until it becomes completely obsolete. Option C. Advocate for a less expensive, incremental software patch to the existing system, prioritizing immediate cost savings over the comprehensive benefits of a new CAD system. Option D. Implement the new CAD system after a thorough risk assessment that quantifies potential benefits against implementation costs, training requirements, and potential operational disruptions, with a plan for phased rollout and continuous evaluation. The correct answer is D. Implement the new CAD system after a thorough risk assessment that quantifies potential benefits against implementation costs, training requirements, and potential operational disruptions, with a plan for phased rollout and continuous evaluation. Explanation: this scenario is professionally challenging because it requires a public safety answering point (SAP) supervisor to balance immediate operational needs with long-term strategic planning and resource allocation, all while adhering to strict regulatory mandates for public safety communication. The core of the challenge lies in assessing the true value of investing in advanced technology versus maintaining existing, potentially less efficient, but familiar systems. The supervisor must consider not only the direct costs and benefits, but also the indirect impacts on response times, data accuracy, and staff training, all within the framework of CPSC guidelines. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a comprehensive, data-driven evaluation that aligns with the CPSC emphasis on effective and efficient public safety operations. By conducting a thorough risk assessment that quantifies potential benefits, e.g., reduced call handling times, improved location accuracy against potential risks, e.g., implementation costs, training needs, system integration issues. The supervisor ensures that any decision is grounded in evidence and serves the ultimate goal of enhancing public safety. This aligns with CPSC principles of operational excellence and responsible resource management. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on the initial capital expenditure without considering the long-term operational savings or improved service delivery fails to meet the CPSC mandate for efficiency. It represents a failure to perform due diligence and could lead to suboptimal resource allocation. Another incorrect approach that prioritizes immediate, tangible benefits without adequately assessing the risks of new technology implementation, e.g., cybersecurity vulnerabilities, staff resistance to change, overlooks critical aspects of operational readiness and compliance. This could expose the SAP to unforeseen disruptions and compromise public safety. An approach that dismisses the need for advanced technology due to perceived complexity or cost, without exploring potential solutions or phased implementation, demonstrates a lack of forward thinking and may lead to the SAP falling behind industry standards, potentially impacting its ability to effectively serve the public in the long run, which is contrary to CPSC aim of continuous improvement. Professional reasoning in such situations requires a structured decision-making process. This involves clearly defining the problem or opportunity, gathering relevant data, including cost, benefit, and risk information, identifying and evaluating alternative solutions, and selecting the option that best balances operational effectiveness, fiscal responsibility, and regulatory compliance. It also necessitates stakeholder engagement and a clear communication plan for any proposed changes. Question 15. Research into effective radio communication protocols for public safety communicators highlights the importance of minimizing ambiguity. During a multi-agency response to a significant incident, a responding officer transmits, "We've got a 10-4 on the perimeter breach, requesting immediate ESU support, E to 5 mics." Each of the following actions by the public safety communicator best exemplifies adherence to proper radio etiquette and clear communication principles. Option A. Acknowledge the transmission with a clear and concise copy that, requesting ESU E to 5 minutes, and then relay the information to the appropriate ESU supervisor. Option B. Respond with "Roger that 10-4, and then ask the officer to clarify what ESU and mics refer to. Option C. Immediately dispatch ESU without further confirmation, assuming the officer's terminology is universally understood by all responding units. Option D. Inform the officer that 10-4 is outdated and ask them to rephrase their entire message using only plain language. The correct answer is A. Acknowledge the transmission with a clear and concise copy that, requesting ESU E to 5 minutes, and then relay the information to the appropriate ESU supervisor. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires immediate, clear, and concise communication under potentially stressful circumstances, directly impacting public safety. The CPSC role demands adherence to strict radio etiquette to ensure that critical information is not lost, misinterpreted, or delayed, which could have severe consequences for responders and the public. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes clarity, brevity, and adherence to established protocols, aligning with the CPSC core responsibilities. Using plain language, avoiding unnecessary jargon, and confirming understanding are fundamental to preventing miscommunication. This directly supports the CPSC duty to facilitate effective and efficient emergency response, as mandated by the principles of public safety communication. An incorrect approach that uses excessive jargon or slang fails to meet the standard of clear communication. This can lead to confusion among other responders who may not be familiar with the specific terminology, potentially causing delays or incorrect actions. This violates the ethical obligation to ensure all parties involved have a shared understanding of the situation, which is paramount in public safety. Another incorrect approach that involves lengthy, rambling transmissions is inefficient and can tie up radio channels needed for other critical communications. This not only hinders operational effectiveness, but also demonstrates a lack of professional discipline in managing limited communication resources, a key aspect of CPSC responsibilities. A third incorrect approach that fails to confirm receipt or understanding of critical information leaves room for doubt about whether instructions or updates have been properly received. This creates a significant risk of operational breakdown, as responders may proceed with incomplete or inaccurate information, directly jeopardizing safety and operational integrity. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes the who, what, where, when, and why of the communication, ensuring all essential elements are conveyed clearly and concisely. This involves actively listening, anticipating potential misunderstandings, and using standardized phraseology where appropriate, while always defaulting to plain language when in doubt. The ultimate goal is to ensure the message is received, understood, and acted upon correctly and without delay. Question 16. The efficiency study reveals that during high call volume periods, some public safety communicators are expediting resource dispatch by inputting only essential call data and relying on verbal updates from responders to fill in critical details later, rather than fully utilizing the CAD system's information fields for incident type, required resources, and responder status. This practice, while seemingly faster, raises concerns about the integrity of dispatch records and the accuracy of resource allocation. Which of the following approaches best aligns with CPSC regulatory framework and best professional practices for utilizing CAD systems in such scenarios? Option A. Focus on verbal communication with responders to confirm dispatch details and resource availability, and only input essential information into the CAD system to reduce system load during peak times. Option B. Consistently input all available and relevant call data into the CAD system, accurately categorize the incident type, identify the most appropriate resources based on the incident's needs and available unit information within the CAD, and ensure all dispatch actions and responder status updates are reflected in the system in real time. Option C. Dispatch the closest available unit based on proximity alone, assuming responders can adapt their equipment and training to the incident as they arrive, and update the CAD system with full details only after the incident is resolved. Option D. Prioritize rapid dispatch by entering only the minimum required call data and relying on responders to verbally provide additional details that can be manually added to the CAD system after the initial dispatch. The correct answer is B. Consistently input all available and relevant call data into the CAD system, accurately categorize the incident type, identify the most appropriate resources based on the incident's needs and available unit information within the CAD, and ensure all dispatch actions and responder status updates are reflected in the system in real time. Explanation. The efficiency study reveals a recurring issue where public safety communicators are not consistently utilizing the full capabilities of the computer-aided dispatch (CAD) system for resource allocation, leading to potential delays in response times. This scenario is professionally challenging because it directly impacts the core function of public safety communication, ensuring timely and appropriate deployment of emergency services. The pressure to manage multiple incoming calls and dispatching units simultaneously can lead to shortcuts or reliance on familiar, but not necessarily optimal, procedures. Careful judgment is required to balance speed with accuracy and completeness of information within the CAD system. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it emphasizes adherence to established protocols and the comprehensive utilization of the CAD system as mandated by CPSC guidelines. By ensuring all relevant call data is accurately inputted, including precise location, nature of the incident, and any special circumstances, and by systematically accessing available information on responding units and their status, communicators can make informed dispatch decisions. This systematic approach minimizes the risk of misallocation, ensures the most appropriate resources are dispatched, and creates a clear, auditable record of the event, all of which are critical for accountability and post-incident review, aligning with CPSC focus on operational integrity and public safety. An incorrect approach that involves prioritizing speed over complete data entry is professionally unacceptable. This failure directly contravenes CPSC emphasis on accurate record-keeping and information integrity. Incomplete or inaccurate data in the CAD system can lead to dispatching the wrong type of unit, sending resources to an incorrect location, or failing to provide responding units with crucial situational awareness, thereby increasing risk to both the public and responders. This also hinders post-incident analysis and training. Another incorrect approach, such as relying solely on verbal confirmations from responders without updating the CAD system, represents a significant regulatory and ethical failure. CPSC standards require the CAD system to be the single source of truth for dispatch operations. Verbal confirmations, while important for immediate communication, do not constitute a formal update within the system. This omission creates a discrepancy between the system's record and the actual operational status, leading to potential confusion, duplicated efforts, or the dispatch of unavailable resources. It undermines the system's reliability and the ability to track resource availability accurately. A third incorrect approach, which involves dispatching the closest available unit without considering the specific nature of the incident or the unit's specialized capabilities, is also professionally unacceptable. CPSC guidelines stress the importance of matching resources to incident needs. While proximity is a factor, it should not be the sole determinant. Failing to assess the incident type and the specialized skills or equipment of available units can result in an inefficient or ineffective response, potentially exacerbating the situation and failing to meet the public's needs. The professional reasoning process for similar situations should involve a constant reinforcement of CPSC standards regarding CAD system utilization. Communicators must be trained to view the CAD system not just as a tool for sending units, but as a comprehensive information management system critical for operational effectiveness and safety. When faced with time constraints, the decision-making framework should prioritize a brief, but accurate, data input and a systematic check of relevant information within the CAD system before dispatching. If a shortcut is considered, it must be evaluated against CPSC guidelines for potential impact on data integrity, resource allocation accuracy, and overall public safety. Regular audits and feedback loops on CAD system usage are essential to identify and correct deviations from best practices. Question 17. The control framework reveals that a public safety communicator is monitoring multiple incoming reports of a potential hazardous material spill in a densely populated area. Initial reports are fragmented and lack definitive confirmation of the substance or its immediate danger. The communicator must decide on the appropriate utilization of the Emergency Alert System, EAS, to disseminate critical information. Which of the following actions best aligns with best practices for EAS activation and utilization in this scenario? Option A. Immediately activate the EAS with a general alert about a potential hazardous material incident, advising residents to shelter in place, while simultaneously working with emergency responders to verify the substance and its exact location and impact. Option B. Initiate an EAS activation with a message focused on traffic advisories related to the incident, without mentioning the potential hazardous material aspect until its severity is definitively confirmed. Option C. Activate the EAS with a message that includes speculative details about the potential health effects of the unknown substance, based on common hazardous materials, to ensure the public is aware of all possibilities. Option D. Delay EAS activation until all details of the hazardous material spill, including the specific substance, its exact trajectory, and confirmed health risks, are fully documented and verified by multiple independent sources. The correct answer is A. Immediately activate the EAS with a general alert about a potential hazardous material incident, advising residents to shelter in place, while simultaneously working with emergency responders to verify the substance and its exact location and impact. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the critical nature of public safety information dissemination and the potential for widespread impact from EAS activations. The need for swift, accurate, and appropriate communication during emergencies requires careful judgment to balance the urgency of the situation with the responsibility to avoid unnecessary panic or misinformation. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes adherence to established protocol and regulatory guidelines for EAS activation. This ensures that information disseminated is verified, relevant, and targeted to the affected population, thereby maximizing its effectiveness while minimizing potential negative consequences. Specifically, it aligns with the principles of responsible emergency communication, emphasizing accuracy, clarity, and timeliness as mandated by public safety communication standards. An incorrect approach that involves immediate, unverified activation of the EAS for a potential but unconfirmed threat fails to meet professional standards. This action could lead to public alarm without a genuine emergency, eroding public trust in the EAS and potentially diverting resources from actual critical incidents. It violates the ethical obligation to provide accurate information and the regulatory requirement for verified threats before initiating widespread alerts. Another incorrect approach, which involves delaying activation to gather more comprehensive data beyond what is immediately available and actionable, risks failing to warn the public in a timely manner. This delay could have severe consequences for public safety if the threat is imminent and rapidly evolving. It represents a failure to exercise sound judgment under pressure and a disregard for the primary purpose of the EAS, which is to provide timely warnings. A further incorrect approach, such as tailoring the message to include speculative information or personal opinions, is a direct violation of professional conduct and regulatory mandates. EAS messages must be factual, objective, and based on verified information from authoritative sources. Introducing speculation or personal bias undermines the credibility of the alert and can lead to confusion and distrust. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a systematic evaluation of the incoming information against established criteria for EAS activation. This includes verifying the source and nature of the threat, assessing its immediate danger to the public, and consulting relevant protocols and emergency management agencies. Professionals must prioritize accuracy, timeliness, and adherence to regulatory frameworks, while also exercising critical judgment to determine the most appropriate course of action to protect public safety. Question 18. Which approach would be most appropriate for a certified public safety communicator, CPSC, when receiving a 911 call from an individual who clearly speaks only Mandarin Chinese and the dispatcher has no proficiency in Mandarin? Option A. Attempt to communicate using basic English phrases and gestures, hoping the caller can understand enough to convey their emergency. Option B. Ask another individual present in the caller's location, if audible, to translate the conversation. Option C. Politely inform the caller that the agency cannot assist them due to the language barrier and disconnect the call. Option D. Immediately utilize the integrated translation service available through the dispatch console to connect with a qualified Mandarin interpreter. The correct answer is D. Immediately utilize the integrated translation service available through the dispatch console to connect with a qualified Mandarin interpreter. Explanation. Scenario analysis. Handling calls from non-English speakers presents a significant professional challenge for public safety communicators. The primary challenge lies in ensuring accurate and timely information exchange to facilitate an effective and safe response. Misunderstandings due to language barriers can lead to delayed or inappropriate actions, potentially jeopardizing the safety of both the caller and responding personnel. Cultural nuances can also impact how information is conveyed and perceived, requiring sensitivity and awareness beyond mere linguistic translation. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach prioritizes immediate access to qualified translation services. This aligns with the fundamental ethical and professional obligation of public safety communicators to provide equal access to services regardless of a caller's primary language. Regulatory frameworks, such as those guiding the Certified Public Safety Communicator (CPSC) certification, emphasize the importance of effective communication and the utilization of available resources to overcome barriers. Relying on a readily available professional translation service ensures accuracy, minimizes the risk of misinterpretation, and upholds the principle of equitable service delivery. This approach directly addresses the need for clear, precise communication in emergency situations. Incorrect approaches analysis. Attempting to communicate using limited personal knowledge of the caller's language, even with good intentions, is professionally unacceptable. This approach introduces a high risk of misinterpretation, omission of critical details, or the use of inappropriate terminology, all of which can have severe consequences in an emergency. It fails to meet the standard of accuracy required for public safety communication and bypasses established protocols for language access. Relying on a bystander or another caller to translate is also professionally unsound. While seemingly a quick solution, it introduces several risks. The bystander may not be fluent or may lack the specific vocabulary needed for emergency situations. Their interpretation could be biased, incomplete, or inaccurate. Furthermore, involving a third party can compromise caller privacy and may not be culturally sensitive. This approach deviates from professional standards that mandate trained and qualified resources for critical communication tasks. Professional reasoning. Public safety communicators must adopt a systematic approach when faced with language barriers. The decision-making process should begin with identifying the language barrier. Immediately thereafter, the protocol for accessing professional translation services should be initiated. This involves utilizing the dispatch system's integrated translation tools or contacting a designated language line. While attempting to understand basic phrases might be a temporary measure, it should never replace the use of qualified interpreters. Cultural sensitivity training, often a component of CPSC certification, should inform the communicator's demeanor and communication style throughout the interaction, ensuring respect and understanding. The overarching principle is to ensure that every caller receives the same level of professional and effective service, regardless of their linguistic background. Question 19. The review process indicates that during a multi-vehicle accident with potential entrapment, a public safety communicator relayed critical patient status updates to responding paramedics using a general administrative channel rather than the designated Emergency Medical Services (EMS) dispatch channel. This decision was made to avoid what the communicator perceived as potential congestion on the EMS channel. Which of the following represents the most appropriate professional response to this situation, considering the regulatory framework for public safety communications? Option A. The communicator should have utilized the designated EMS dispatch channel for all critical patient status updates, adhering to established protocols for emergency medical communications, regardless of perceived channel congestion. Option B. The communicator's decision to use an administrative channel was a reasonable attempt to ensure information delivery, and the focus should be on improving channel management for EMS communications. Option C. The communicator's action was acceptable as long as the information was successfully relayed to the paramedics, demonstrating that the ultimate goal of information dissemination was achieved. Option D. The communicator should have first attempted to contact EMS supervisors on the administrative channel to request guidance on managing potential channel congestion before deviating from the primary EMS channel. The correct answer is A. The communicator should have utilized the designated EMS dispatch channel for all critical patient status updates, adhering to established protocols for emergency medical communications, regardless of perceived channel congestion. Explanation. The review process indicates a potential lapse in adherence to established radio communication protocols during a critical incident, raising concerns about operational efficiency and public safety. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires a public safety communicator to balance the immediate need for information exchange with the long-term implications of protocol breaches. The pressure of an emergency can lead to shortcuts, but maintaining strict adherence to communication standards is paramount for ensuring clear, concise, and reliable information flow, which is directly tied to effective emergency response and the safety of both the public and responding personnel. The correct approach involves prioritizing the use of designated emergency channels and adhering to established communication protocols for reporting critical information. This aligns with the fundamental principles of public safety radio communication, which are designed to ensure that vital messages are transmitted without interference and are understood by all relevant parties. Following these protocols, as mandated by regulatory frameworks governing public safety communications, ensures interoperability, reduces the risk of miscommunication, and maintains the integrity of the communication system during high-stress situations. This approach upholds the ethical responsibility to provide accurate and timely information to emergency responders and the public. An incorrect approach would be to utilize a non-emergency channel for a critical incident report due to perceived ease of access, or to bypass standard reporting procedures to expedite information dissemination. This is a regulatory and ethical failure because it can lead to the critical information being missed by essential personnel monitoring emergency frequencies, potentially delaying response or causing confusion. Furthermore, it undermines the established protocols designed to manage radio spectrum efficiently and prevent interference on critical channels. Another incorrect approach would be to transmit sensitive or personally identifiable information over an unsecured or inappropriate channel, violating privacy regulations and compromising data security. This demonstrates a lack of understanding of the sensitivity of information and the security requirements of public safety communications. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes adherence to established protocols and regulations, even under pressure. This involves a clear understanding of the purpose of different radio channels, the content of communication protocols, and the legal and ethical implications of their actions. When faced with a situation that tempts a deviation from protocol, professionals should ask, does this action compromise the clarity, security, or accessibility of critical information? And does this action align with the established regulatory requirements for public safety communication? This systematic evaluation ensures that decisions are made in the best interest of public safety and in compliance with all governing standards. Question 20. The analysis reveals that a 14-year-old is experiencing severe abdominal pain and nausea. The child is alert and oriented, able to articulate their symptoms clearly, and expresses a desire for medical assistance. However, their parents are unreachable at the moment. As a certified public safety communicator, what is the most appropriate course of action regarding gathering information about the patient's condition? Option A. Contact the parents immediately and wait for their instructions before gathering any information from the minor, even if the minor is clearly able to communicate their symptoms. Option B. Refuse to gather any detailed medical information until a parent or legal guardian can be contacted and provide consent, as the patient is a minor. Option C. Obtain information about the patient's symptoms and medical history directly from the minor, explaining why the information is needed for emergency medical services, while simultaneously attempting to contact their parents. Option D. Proceed with gathering information from the minor without explaining why it is needed, assuming they understand the necessity due to the emergency. The correct answer is C. Obtain information about the patient's symptoms and medical history directly from the minor, explaining why the information is needed for emergency medical services, while simultaneously attempting to contact their parents. Explanation. The analysis reveals a common yet ethically complex situation in public safety communication, balancing the need for immediate, accurate patient information with the patient's right to privacy and autonomy, especially when the patient is a minor. The professional challenge lies in discerning when parental consent is absolutely necessary versus when a minor's own assent, or even a mature minor's decision-making capacity, can be respected, all within the framework of CPSC regulations and ethical guidelines. This requires a nuanced understanding of legal and ethical boundaries concerning minors' medical information and treatment. The correct approach prioritizes obtaining information vital for the patient's care, while respecting the minor's evolving autonomy and legal requirements for parental involvement. This involves assessing the minor's apparent age and maturity, the nature of the emergency, and the urgency of the medical information needed. When a minor appears capable of understanding their situation and the information requested, and the information is not immediately life-threatening or requiring invasive procedures that would necessitate parental consent, seeking the minor's assent to share information with emergency medical services is the most appropriate action. This aligns with CPSC ethical duty to facilitate effective patient care while upholding patient rights, recognizing that minors, depending on their age and maturity, may have a right to participate in decisions about their health information. An incorrect approach would be to automatically withhold all information until a parent is present, regardless of the severity of the situation or the minor's apparent ability to communicate their symptoms. This could lead to delayed or inadequate medical treatment, directly contravening the CPSC primary responsibility to ensure prompt and effective emergency response. Another incorrect approach would be to disregard the minor's wishes entirely and proceed with information gathering without any attempt to obtain their assent, even if they appear mature and capable of understanding. This would violate principles of patient autonomy and could erode trust, potentially hindering future cooperation. Finally, an incorrect approach would be to assume the minor is incapable of providing accurate information or making any decisions, and to solely rely on assumptions until parental contact is made, even in situations where the minor is clearly able to articulate their symptoms and needs. This demonstrates a lack of professional judgment and an oversimplification of the complexities surrounding minor consent and assent. Professional decision-making in such scenarios requires a systematic approach. First, assess the immediate threat to life and limb. Second, evaluate the minor's apparent age, maturity, and ability to comprehend the situation. Third, Determine the urgency and nature of the information required. And fourth, consult established protocols and legal guidelines regarding minor consent and information sharing in emergency situations. The goal is to gather necessary information efficiently and ethically, always striving to balance the patient's well-being with their rights.